Okay.
Hello, good evening, and thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Burman. The ICE officers' perspectives. The new view from the deadly Minnesota shooting. The White House says it shows the action was justified.
She's a agitator, probably a paid agitator. You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement.
How Minnesota is reacting tonight as protests continue. We are live on the streets with Brian Entin in moments. Plus, open for business. President Trump today declaring the U.S. controls Venezuelan oil and has a big ask at the White House for American oil executives. Also this evening, the U.S. job market slowing down, but mortgage rates also dropping. Kevin O'Leary tonight tells us what this could mean for your community. And new year, new diet. The Trump administration prioritizing red meat. So is it healthy? And what does it mean for the cost of beef? But first tonight, here from the Hill, the new view. Video released showing the ICE officers' perspectives in Wednesday's deadly shooting in Minnesota. Now, I'm going to play for you here a 47-second version of this video, and I'm going to warn you right off the top here. In part, you are going to hear the gunshots. Here it is.
I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa! In moments, we hear from the former DHS Secretary Chad Wolf on what he sees in that video. But first to our Brian Entin tonight on what he's seeing with the growing protests there in Minnesota. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Blake. Yeah, despite what this new video shows, it does not seem to be changing the sentiment at all here out on the streets of Minneapolis. Let me show you. We're at the spot where the shooting happened, and there's still quite a large crowd. A few of them just went on a march, but they've been gathering here all day and all night. I just spoke with a man out here. We actually showed him the video and said, hey, have you seen this new look from the ICE agent's perspective? And he hadn't seen it. We showed it to him, and this was his reaction. Listen to this, Blake.
That's not cause for murder, and it feels like the only way to justify it, or the only way to think about the mindset of somebody that would shoot 3 rounds, 1 into the windshield and 2 into the side window of a woman, is just someone that's just really angry or really afraid.
And something else, Blake, when I was out here yesterday with you, this was an area really controlled by the protesters. It was almost becoming an autonomous zone. They had checkpoints, the protesters did. They had fires that they were burning out here, like to stay warm. They had tents. Today, I just want to show you the police have come out. They've reopened the road, and there's a ton of Minneapolis police officers out here, which is not something we saw yesterday. I didn't see one police officer all day and all night yesterday. Today, they came in, they cleared out all the barricades that the protesters had created, and Minneapolis police are definitely now in control of this area. Blake?
Yeah, Brian, it stunned me when we were on air with you last night. You said that essentially that the protesters there were controlling this zone. Do we know what changed that brought those Minneapolis police officers out?
Yeah, it was very similar to what we saw with George Floyd last night, and it felt like they were going to take over the area. I think what happened is some of the neighbors started to complain, and they didn't want to see this grow out of control. And if it wasn't addressed immediately, that's what happened last time. I mean, you have an entire encampment that grows and grows and grows. And again, now you can see they've still got one lane closed, but this is now police closing the lane, and there's police on every block now. So they've moved what was going to become an encampment, they've moved them all out, Blake.
Our Brian Entin live for us once again tonight in Minneapolis. Brian, thank you. With us now, Chad Wolf, once again, former Homeland Security Secretary in the first Trump administration. Chad, thanks for being back with us. We spoke Wednesday. I said probably hear from you soon. And here we are again with the news of this video this evening. You have witnessed it from your view as the former head of Homeland Security. What is your reaction?
Well, obviously, it gives us a lot more data than we previously had. I think what is concerning here is a little bit of the demeanor. The two individuals, one behind the wheel and the other one, seem to be giggling, seem to be having fun with the fact that they're disrupting a law enforcement operation. Obviously, there was a command given to the woman behind the wheel. She didn't adhere to that, backed up the car, and then put the car in drive. And so again, a lot of split-second decisions that need to be made here. But what you don't know, and is what's going through the officer's minds. Is she going to lurch forward and going to reverse and keep going back and forth? So all of these things are going on in the minds of law enforcement officers who know that there's a group of folks that constantly surveil them, that constantly try to disrupt their operations. And so I think the new video that we see today is another data point in all the other videos that we've been looking at.
We've heard from the President of the United States, the Vice President as well. I hear your perspective. What would you say? Brian Entin played that soundbite there from someone on the streets who said, quote, "That's not cause for murder," in their words. How would you respond?
Yeah, well, you're certainly not a law enforcement officer. You don't have the training. You don't have a gun and a badge. This is not what you do for a living. And so the professionals that do this for a living, many of which will be involved in the investigation, let's let that play out. They know what is the proper course of action and what is not. And that's obviously what the investigation will entail. Just random bystanders and others that are weighing in on this. It's like, me weighing in on a medical procedure. I'm not a doctor. So I may look at something, but I don't have the expertise to decide that or not. That's why, the men and women of the FBI that will run the investigation, that have experience in these types of things, will evaluate the totality of the circumstances and will decide on whether or not that use of force was appropriate for the moment.
Chad, this started as an immigration and deportation operation, the largest ever immigration operation in Minneapolis. Earlier this week, it was 2,000 ICE agents. Our Allie Bradley is reporting tonight that Border Patrol is now sending some 200 Border Patrol officers to Minnesota, and 800 are preparing to potentially go as well, leading to a total of 3,000 federal agents and officers. You told me Wednesday night that you thought the administration would double down. Essentially, it seems like they are moving somewhat in that direction, if not literally, but clearly adding more resources. Why is that needed? Do you still feel that that's needed?
Yeah, I think it is right now because, what you see, what we have historically seen is when there's an incident like this, who comes, who are the outside folks coming into Minnesota? It's going to be professional protesters. It's going to be others that do this for a living. And so you don't want something that started with one incident to come out of control. And so that's why you're going to need more law enforcement. You perhaps maybe even need the National Guard. I know Governor Walz is talking about that as well. And so I think that's why you're going to see a surge of law enforcement officers. But I think it's important to remember that ICE in the state of Minnesota, as part of this operation, has arrested roughly 1,000 criminal illegal aliens. These are pedophiles, these are murderers, these are rapists, and others that otherwise, because of the policies of Minnesota and Minneapolis, would be on the streets reoffending. And so, that's why ICE is there, is to take these individuals off the street. So it's really important that they continue to do their job.
Chad Wolf, former DHS Secretary, with us once again this evening. Chad, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks. With us now, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Chris, hello.
Sir.
Nice to see you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I mentioned Allie's reporting. She was on the show a few weeks ago talking about how the administration would change tactics back then. Remember the Home Depot deportations, and that they were no longer going to be doing that. It sets up the question of, is the Trump administration going to change any sort of its policies as a result of this going forward?
Well, another question, related question is, will Democrats change their policies in relation to this?
There.
So
Yep.
for Tim Walz, you've seen Tim Walz try to de-escalate and cool things down, right? The mayor of Minneapolis went the other way.
Right, did the opposite.
But the Governor Walz has tried to cool things down. Secretary Wolf alluded to it, but basically it is in the interest of everyone, but it's also in the interest of Democrats politically, that the situation in Minneapolis not turn into a massive conflagration. This is where the George Floyd protests started. This is where all of that went on. The fundamental opportunity for Democrats in this is, if it is possible to show that they can keep peace, they can keep order, there will be demonstrations, but the demonstrations will be peaceful, the police will be present, the National Guard comes out,
right,
all of that stuff, then that's to the good. The fundamental challenge for Republicans is, Americans broadly support tough enforcement of immigration laws. And a big surprise to Democrats was that a majority of Americans favored mass deportation. The
execution of it.
Exactly. In that video, what that video shows, what it all goes to, whatever percentage of blame any viewer places on the woman who was killed or the police officer who shot, or the ICE officer who shot her, this is not what America wants to see. This is not how they want to see it go down. So can Democrats keep order in a chaotic time is question one. Question two is, can Republicans find a way to use the advantage that they have on the enforcement of the law while enforcing the law in a way that doesn't repulse voters?
Whole hog politics, you write, I read. Headline, Minnesota goes from Democratic debacle to GOP angst. I read the article, but explain it. You could do it better than I.
It was just, every week is a year, brother. Every week is a year, and if we were sitting here a week ago, we would talk about what's going on in Minnesota. We'd have said, Tim Walz is in huge trouble. This puts the Senate seat that's open there into doubt. It changes Democrats' calculus on the map. This scandal with the welfare programs in Minnesota could be a black eye for Democrats, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Never mind.
Right.
Throw it all away. You can throw all of that away. That was like 2 invasions ago. Like, what are we even talking about? And the ephemeral nature of politics in 2026 and how quickly a perceived advantage turns into a defect. Now, I don't know whether this lasts as an advantage for Democrats. I don't know what riots may occur, what problems may occur. But right now, what was a clear advantage for Republicans a week ago is now a debacle.
You have the best Sunday show in the biz, The Hill Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern here on News Nation. Tell me who you have this weekend.
Oh, I think we have. I do think we have guests now. There we go. Congressman Bresnahan's really interesting.
Tell me.
He is one of the 4 Republicans who forced the discharge petition on the Obamacare extension, and they won, right? So the House passed it this week, and they got a bunch of other Republicans to come on board. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about housing prices. It's going to be amazing.
The best Sunday show in the biz. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you.
Catch you Sunday morning. All right, still to come here on The Hill. Is it a warning sign for the economy? The president hosts oil executives as well at the White House as the U.S. gets some questionable jobs numbers. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, with us here on the other side of the break. Plus, the administration flips the food pyramid, pushing meat and full-fat dairy in American diets. Is this the right move? Sid Miller, the Texas Ag Commissioner, in town and joins us live. And we continue to monitor the protests in Minneapolis as The Hill returns. I'm Blake Burman. See you on the other side. 4 minutes.
It's a whole different Venezuela, and Venezuela is going to be very successful. And the people of the United States are going to be big beneficiaries because we're going to be extracting, numbers of, in terms of oil, like, few people have ever seen, actually. So you're dealing with us directly. You're not dealing with Venezuela at all.
President Trump today pressuring American oil executives to invest in rebuilding Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Just hours after the administration seized a 5th oil tanker. Just some of the video here. U.S. forces nabbed the vessel in the Caribbean after it departed Venezuela. A U.S. official reports that the crew did not resist. Now, this, as some criticize the administration for focusing more on Venezuela during a time that we got a little bit of a warning sign potentially here on the U.S. economy. For example, today, the U.S. economy reported, or at least we learned, that we added 50,000 new jobs in December. That's according to the Labor Department's employment report. The unemployment rate right now at 4.4%, just slightly down from last month. Now, this makes 2025 the slowest year for job growth since the pandemic. This right here is basically since the turn of the century. And here's what you'll notice. Outside of COVID or the great financial crisis, this was the slowest job growth in basically 2 decades. But Americans' wages are rising. Wages up more than 3.8% since last year. That means they're rising faster than the rate of inflation, which is up by an annual rate of 2.7%. President Trump weighing in on this jobs report today.
An amazing report. The most amazing thing is government jobs are way down, and yet the unemployment or the employment numbers are very good.
With us now here on the Hill, Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Leary Ventures, big-time movie star who I am told is out in Los Angeles for the Golden Globes because, as you might know, he's in the smashing hit Marty Supreme. Back with us once again here on the Hill. Mr. Wonderful, congratulations on that. Thanks for being back with us once again. Let me start with the thing you know best about, which is the economy and jobs. The president raved about it today. Should he?
Yeah, actually, the job numbers was soft. 50,000 was soft. I mean, there's no getting around it. You wish it was 150,000. There are reasons for this, but you got to look at the total picture. One of the reasons that the market actually liked this number, this may sound a little perverse, is that it gives the possibility of further Fed cuts because employment is one of their mandates. Inflation and employment. Those are the 2 mandates of the Fed. So now you've got a situation where, as you detailed, a slowing of the economy in terms of job growth. But let me explain why that's happening. 72% of jobs created in America are created by companies between 5 and 500 employees, small business, entrepreneurs, American entrepreneurs. They are the economy. And so anytime they have concerns about what's going on, they slow down in terms of hiring, and they slow down a little bit on how they use their capital, CapEx, and how much inventory they have, and all the rest of that. So let's talk about what those uncertainties are right now. As you know, today we were expecting a ruling from the Supreme Court about tariffs.
Didn't happen, yep.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Now, the number one question I had last week going into this Friday was from small business owners saying, hey, listen, how much of these tariffs that I've paid do you think I'm going to get back? Because I don't know. And I won't know until the Supreme Court rules. And I think what's going to happen with this ruling is it's not going to be a binary black or white. I think some elements of trade policy should remain with the executive, and they will. That's been around forever. But these emergency acts around fentanyl and input costs out of Canada and Mexico that occurred, that affected millions of small businesses, there may be some rebate involved there. So that's the first question. What's the rebate going to be? And secondly, and until you know that, you're a little bit concerned about hiring the next person. And that's showing up in the job numbers.
Kevin, I think the average person at home probably is sitting back and looking at this, and they know how they feel, and they know what they're thinking, and they see the headlines, and they might just wonder, what's 2026 going to be like, and am I going to make more money? What would you tell them?
I'm optimistic. I really am. And one of the reasons is I just got back last night from Utah. Now, when's the last time you went to Salt Lake City? I hadn't been there.
It's been a while. I was a kid.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm just giving you the news. I mean, I'm looking for new investment opportunities all the time. And I think one of the big themes coming into the next 2 years in terms of investing in job creation and investment is going to be around power. Everybody's been talking about power, and the administration is talking about power. And we all know the Chinese are killing us in creating faster power generation by a factor 4x. I mean, they're really kicking our butts. And some of the states like Utah are figuring that out. And so I went to meet the governor there, Cox, and the Senator Adams. They rolled out the red carpet for my entire team. I think they're doing that with a lot of investors. These guys get the joke. They're really going to accelerate policy in terms of getting permits. And so investors like me like to hear that. And that gives me a lot of optimism because those kinds of infrastructure plays are big dollars. We're talking billions. And so you know, I've been saying this for quite a while. There's competition between states. There are winner states and there are loser states. I wouldn't be going to California to think about investing in infrastructure, and I wouldn't be going to New York. But there I am. See, in Utah, and so I'm optimistic that these states are starting to attract capital, create jobs. That's going to be the infrastructure spending that's going to buoy the economy. It's not just going to be technology. It's going to be power. And I like it, and I'm very optimistic. And by the way, I was very impressed. I had steak and eggs for breakfast, steak and salad for lunch, and steak for dinner. I got
maybe you'll get a Golden Globe for dessert. We got to leave it there. Kevin O'Leary, best of luck this weekend. We'll catch you once again. Have a great weekend.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Of course. All right. Still to come tonight here on the Hill. Tensions growing. Minnesota and Oregon as well. Protesters packing the streets over agent-involved shootings. Plus, let them eat steak. The Trump administration has remade the food pyramid. But critics say it could be a recipe for disaster. We explain. All right, developing story that we continue to watch out of Minneapolis tonight as it's 5:30 in the evening there, 6:30 here on the East Coast. Some of the big stories that we're monitoring in our newsroom at this hour. In Portland, Oregon, the Department of Homeland Security there said the 2 people wounded in a Border Patrol-involved shooting were in the country illegally. The Department of Homeland Security says both were part of a targeted vehicle stop of a suspected Tren de Aragua gang associate. Agents say when they identified themselves, the suspect tried to run them over. The mayor of Portland condemned the shooting.
Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets.
The FBI says it's investigating the incident and said the 2 victims who fled the shooting scene are being treated for their wounds. Back here in the nation's capital, the suspect arrested in connection with the pipe bombs that were placed outside both the Democratic and Republican headquarters on the eve of January 6th, 5 years ago, pleading not guilty to federal charges today. Brian Cole Jr. has been in custody since his arrest a month ago. His attorney said that they would like that they be reconsidered given his diagnoses, which include autism. Overseas now, people taking to the streets in protest of the regime, the Iranian regime, for the 13th consecutive day. Iran's government cutting off access to the internet and international phone calls in response, while state media has referred to protesters as terrorists. President Trump today throwing his weight behind those peacefully protesting. Here's what he said when asked by our Libby Dean.
We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch.
The Iranian Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah there, has signaled that a crackdown is imminent and called for President Trump to back off in a barrage of X posts. One reading, quote, "The rioters have put their hopes in him. If he's so capable, he should manage his own country." At least 62 people are thought to have been killed during the protests, those protests growing in a big international story this evening. Meantime, back here in the U.S., the Trump administration trying to flip the script on the food pyramid. The HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announcing new dietary guidelines this week that encourage Americans to eat more meat and dairy. The new guidelines run counter, though, to the advice Americans have been following for decades, like limiting red meat to avoid heart disease. So is this a new era for health or an invitation for possibly some health concerns? With us now, Sid Miller. He is the Agriculture Commissioner in the great state of Texas. With us live tonight in studio. When you walked in, I joked you exist in person, because we normally do this virtually. You're in town for this announcement.
Yes.
You were with the Secretary.
Yes, sir.
The other day. Let's take a look at that food pyramid, because they sort of flipped it upside down and moved things around as to what's good and what's not. And I think let's start at the top left there, because it's a lot of meat. But what stands out to you?
Eat more beef and drink more milk.
Okay.
That's good. Good for me. You know, I was really glad to see the whole milk put back in the schools. I feed 5 million school kids every day, so that's huge. That's God's perfect nectar for infants and toddlers. So it's a great move. Red meat protein is at the top of the food pyramid now. Dairy, fruits and vegetables. ultra-processed foods are at the bottom, sugary foods, refined sugars and flour. So I think we've all known that, but we just never really understood it. This is great.
Here's the American Heart Association, though. They say, quote, "We are concerned that recommendations regarding salt seasoning and red meat consumption could inadvertently lead consumers to exceed recommendation limits for sodium and saturated fats, which are primary drivers of cardiovascular disease." What would you say to them?
Well, I think this is recommending the good fats. You know, get away from the seed oils. We want avocado, olives, things like that. Tallow, which is a natural, fat. So this is good. It's the right move. We've been listening to corporate America, to the food giants too long. They've been killing our children. We have Texas. We have a huge problem with juvenile diabetes, obesity. So apparently the guidelines we have not been working.
So you mentioned obesity. Here's the adult obesity rate. It was at basically 14%, call it 50 years ago in 1970, and it's almost tripled to north of 40%. Back then in the 70s, folks were averaging about 145 pounds of red meat a year. It's been down now to 110, still a lot, but down. Do you draw a line there? Does that concern you at all?
No, it doesn't concern me. Back, early when you stated there, we didn't have a lot of ultra-processed foods. We weren't flash freezing stuff. We weren't adding chemicals and dyes and preservatives. People were healthier. They were leaner back then. So that's where we're headed.
If you want to eat meat, you got to pay for it. And one of the big stories, obviously, has been the rise in beef prices, up 16% in 2025.
Yeah.
What's in store for 2026 when it comes to beef prices? You've got, I believe, like 230,000 farms there in Texas, so you got a view into this.
Well, we lead the nation in beef production, twice as many as any other state. So let's put this in perspective. So a pound of hamburger now is about $6. So you get 4 burgers out of it. That's
$6.50 a pound.
Yeah, $6.50 a pound,
Yep.
depending on where you buy it.
Fair.
So for math's sake, let's use $6.
Okay.
But I can figure that.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go.
So $1.50 a hamburger patty. So you're eating a hamburger, a $3 hamburger. Compare that to a $6 cup of coffee. It's still a bargain. And people haven't stopped eating it. The national consumption is staying steady. So people don't think it's too high yet. Now, if it gets much higher, they're probably going to find other sources of protein. They'll move away from beef. That's bad for the cattle ranchers because once you lose that per capita consumption, it's real hard to get people back once they start eating pork and poultry and fish and lentils and legumes.
Right. So what do you think happens in the year going forward? Because the president has talked about this. We've heard from the administration on it. Brooke Rollins, the ag secretary, was talking to me about it in that very seat a couple months ago. What do you expect for prices going forward?
I think they're going to be stable. I think we've seen probably an all-time high. We are seeing indications that we're now rebuilding the beef herd. We're getting a lot of new beef from the dairy sector. They have switched from raising dairy heifers to beef calves.
Okay.
So that helps. We have culled just about all of our cull cows. Our older cows are gone. So we're keeping nearly all the cows. We're not culling cows. So that means the herd is rebuilding.
All right. We'll leave it there. Safe travels back.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, sir. Sid Miller, the ag commissioner there in Texas. All right. Other side of the break. A new angle, a new outrage. Protesters once again on the streets of Minneapolis at this hour as video of ICE agents, the ICE agents' view of Wednesday's shooting is released.
I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
There's a new star at NewsNation. Her name is Katie Pavlich.
Smart insight.
Not every situation is the same, so we can put our critical thinking hats on.
Ready to get started.
Let's talk about it.
Katie Pavlich Tonight premieres January 19th at 10/9 Central on NewsNation.
I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Whoa!
25 seconds there, essentially, of the video that we saw today that was released, a perspective from one of the ICE officers there, that Wednesday shooting in Minneapolis. And tonight, the fallout there continues. Full panel with me now. Katie Pavlich, News Nation host of Katie Pavlich tonight. Yemisi Egbawali is the former press office chief of staff in the Biden White House, and Aaron McGuire is a Republican strategist. Hello to you both. Thanks for being here. Hello, Katie.
Thank you. Great to see you.
They're putting you to work already.
They are. It's great. I'm happy to spend my Friday nights here, which I will be doing very often.
Show starts on the 19th with us tonight. Yes. The video comes out today. And we've heard sort of the two camps went to their side, right? The White House defended the ICE officer, the protesters there in Minnesota telling our Brian Entin they described it as murder, but it gives the view, it gives the perspective from the officers on the scene there.
Yeah, and this is why jumping to conclusions for political reasons is not a good way to operate. And what's happening in Minnesota now is you're still seeing a number of people still antagonizing ICE agents. And it would be nice if some local leaders would come out and say, this is not a game, this is not a joke. You see both of those women in that video joking around and, harassing the agents. They were blocking traffic. So the facts of the case, when you have more video like this, make it clearer. But unfortunately, you're seeing the official Democratic Twitter page, say X feed today, trying to basically capitalize off of this even after this video went out, which is really not helpful in terms of these agents needing to do their jobs on behalf of the federal government to get criminal aliens out of the country. And you're seeing video after video of people continuing to go and engage in this kind of behavior, which is very dangerous for the agents and for the people doing it.
What do you see there, Yemisi, and what have you been hearing from the response from Democrats, and how do you view what they're saying?
Well, the response from Democrats has been for some congressional oversight with how the training happens with a lot of ICE agents. J.D. Vance's press conference that he did was really pivotal, I think, for a lot of people to talk about the fact that the ICE agent had a prior incident that involved an automobile and what the counseling and training after that was. And maybe he was in himself a panic state. But also a lot of state leaders in Minnesota talking about the fact of where do they go from here? The communities want to see something happen, but we don't want anything to happen at night. It's good to know that a lot of the Minnesotans haven't fed into that, haven't had any protests or things like that. But I do think this is going to build and tension is going to continue.
I think that last point's completely correct, that the tension is going to continue because you continue to hear rhetoric out of the elected leadership in Minnesota that is only adding fuel to the flames of a fire here. You hear Jacob Fry on TV going after ICE agents. You hear Tim Walz unapologetically villainizing these individuals for doing their job as law enforcement. This is an incredible tragedy. Hard stop. A woman lost her life. That is heartbreaking. On the other side of this, we had a law enforcement officer who was terrified he was about to be killed by a car. This isn't a tough dynamic, but what we need from leadership across the country now is cooler heads and adults to prevail, where they say this is enough. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You cannot stop traffic. You cannot impede law enforcement, and you cannot burn a city to a ground because you disagree with federal priorities.
The Trump administration right now is sending more Border Patrol agents to Minneapolis. Should they?
I think that will fan flames as well. I think that it's going to be tough, but it's also clear they need the additional resources there. It's clear that this is not getting better, and law enforcement at this point seems to be the only way that they can protect the community because the leaders in Minnesota certainly aren't.
But I also think the administration has to kind of rein in some of the people they have speaking on this. Look, we had J.D. Vance do what I think was a prolific press briefing that was very emotive toward the media when I think it should have been more calming to the nation. But you also have Stephen Miller talking about this, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, the president, of course, doing his own commentary, and Kristi Noem slipping in that this was domestic terrorism. I do think that they have to kind of settle on their end, too, as well, some of the rhetoric.
But there's been a lead up to yesterday. I mean, this has been an activist class organized effort for a year since President Trump got back into office and was delivering on this deportation effort to get violent criminal aliens, including those who have assaulted children sexually, women, wanted for murder in their home countries and in the United States. You had a report in July out of Axios of a Democratic elected official here on Capitol Hill saying that there was word going out that you needed to put your body on the line, that you should be willing to get shot to oppose ICE. I haven't heard Democrats basically at all outside of John Fetterman saying, stop doing this. Stop getting in the way. If you want to change the laws on the books, if you want to change how Border Patrol operates, maybe some of the training, if that's really even an issue, talk to Congress about it. But they are doing what the president was elected to do. And this is something that's been organized for months and months and months and is putting everybody in danger, as we saw yesterday.
Meantime, another big story today on the economy, which is among, if it's not the potentially biggest thing for the president going forward, there's a lot out there right now, whether foreign and at home. A jobs report that showed, Katie, only 50,000 jobs added last month, the unemployment rate at 4.4%. But here, when you look at basically the job growth in the first year of the Trump administration, with just shy of only 600,000 jobs added in the year, it is the lowest it has been in 20 years once you strip out COVID and the great financial crisis from the end of 2009, 2010. The other side of it is wages running higher than inflation, right? Wages at 3.8%, inflation at 2.7%. Is the Trump economy working in year one?
It is working because the administration has made a huge effort to change the U.S. economy from one that thrives off of federal government jobs into one that thrives off of private sector jobs. So you're seeing an increase in private sector jobs and a decrease in federal jobs. And you're also seeing overall the predicted data for next year coming out of the Treasury Department, something like 5% potential GDP. You're going to see this big tax break that was passed through legislation last year as the president's agenda. So I think that the American people are in for a good run this year in terms of the economy.
They could predict whatever they want. Like they could predict rainbows.
The numbers,
and stuff,
yeah, but the numbers look like they're there, and all of the economic ground has been laid by the president to make it sure that that happens.
If that jobs print happened in Joe Biden, 600,000 jobs, even if you were to add in all the federal jobs, which is like minus 300,000 or something like that, Trump would have trashed it.
Fair enough, but that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're turning the economy into one that runs off of the private sector, not one that runs after taxpayer dollars that are taken from the private sector and given to a bloated federal government that isn't working for the American people.
What do you see there?
Well, I watched Kevin Hassett talk all day about it, and he said, hold on, Q1, Q2. We're at the start of Q1, so time is running out a bit. So we'll see where they end up on that. But I think for Democrats, the biggest thing that they're going to run on looking into midterms is economy, and talking about that big A, affordability. We're going to be sick of affordability.
Of that word?
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I think Katie's point here is really poignant. The largest grower of jobs during the Joe Biden administration was the federal government. And now you are seeing the private sector not only having to adjust, but bring in those jobs and start to grow. And everything that the Trump administration has said is that Q1, Q2, this is the time the American people are going to start to feel it. And that's what we're going to have to be looking at when it goes into these midterms. The economy is so personal for everybody. How you spend your dollar. You really live your life in the gas station and at the grocery store, right? Those are where you make those decisions. So for the American people, not only about affordability, but that their dollar's going further and that prices are coming down and that gas is less expensive. Those are all good economic indicators for Republicans going into the midterms, which are going to be unbelievably competitive.
By the way, I would note that the American public says, as they did during the Biden tenure, the economy is not working for me.
Yeah.
But when you look at mortgage rates dropping below 6% today, gas prices down. I mean, in my neighborhood, it's like 250 something, 260 something, depending on where you are.
I'm looking at where you live.
When Republicans,
where's that gas station? Put it on the map.
when Republicans say YMSEC, this is what's happening. What are we going to hear from Democrats?
Look, they'll point to the numbers, but I have to say in Republican favor that job reports, the economic downturn, those are all inside the Beltway language. It ultimately matters on how people feel. Yeah. So if the president continues this affordability tour and he is able, as the top messenger for the Republicans, to convince people that the economy is doing well, then Democrats are going to have to scramble and get a good messenger on our end.
And he could also make the argument that the first year of his second term was the Biden hangover from all of the bad economic policies of the previous administration. And now his policies are kicking in with the passage of the big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts. Now they can start to actually have some success with that after getting out the old budget, which was Joe Biden's budget.
And the tariffs as well. We've seen that has made a huge impact on the trade disparity in the United States and the trade deficit. There are a lot of underlying factors in this economy that are making massive changes because of the Trump administration. And now that we are in year two with the big, beautiful bill,
people got to feel it.
That's exactly what it is. We can try and sell it all we want, but if they don't feel it,
show me the graphic. Katie Pavlich tonight premieres January 19th, a week from Monday.
A week from Monday. Let's do it, everybody.
9 Central. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Very excited.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Embassy, Aaron, nice to see you both as well.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Here on the Hill, it's the First Lady's time to shine, where they will be rolling the red carpet out for Melania Trump. That's next. All right, if you're just getting home, trying to catch up on today's top stories, some Hill headlines before we head out tonight. Johnson & Johnson announces a drug pricing deal with the Trump administration. The pharma giant promising to lower the price of some prescription drugs, matching lower prices in other countries. This is the latest deal in the administration's push for drug companies to lower their prices to the most favored nation rates. How about this? Russia says nuclear-capable hypersonic missile used against Ukraine. The Russian military announcing today that it's launched a hypersonic missile, and it marks the first time in more than a year that Russia has done that. That missile also has nuclear capabilities. And Melania film to premiere at the Kennedy Center. The new political documentary featuring First Lady Melania Trump set to premiere January 29th.
Everyone wants to know. So here it is.
Kennedy Center, the 29th. You can catch the movie in theaters the following day. To check out those stories and more, all you have to do, scan the QR code on your screen. Go to thehill.com. That QR code takes you to our morning newsletter. I write in it every day. All right, so how about this? With all the news about government spending and cost of living, I wanted to end the show tonight with a story of government giving. There's an initiative in Iowa known as the Great Iowa Treasure Hunt, and it's a little bit of a government-run lost and found, you could essentially say. Here's how it works. Employees in the state's treasurer's office work to ID misplaced or lost assets for Iowa citizens. And we're not talking about a pair of glasses or a ticket to the Iowa State Fair. In one case, they tracked down a woman with a $4.5 million worth of McDonald's stock. Last year, the treasure hunt returned over $33 million, and that is now a state record. It is a rare time where you love to see a record involving the government and your money. Elizabeth Vargas reports coming up next here on News Nation. I'm Blake Burman. I hope you have a great weekend. Elizabeth starts right now.